Welcome to our exclusive EkkoSense LinkedIn Live event. We are about to dive into the intersection between data center optimization and sustainability, answering questions such as which upcoming sustainability-related regulations should we be paying attention to? What's the latest data center metrics that matter for ESG reporting? And how is the data center industry doing when it comes to cooling optimization? Tough questions. But last but not least, we will also be unveiling a groundbreaking new AI-powered technology that optimizes data center management and sustainability. Lots to do. But first, quick introductions. I am your host, Jaymie Scotto Cutaia, CEO of JSA. And today we are joined by the fabulous Paul Milburn, the Chief Product Officer of EkkoSense. And before we jump into the conversation, a little housekeeping note. We want to hear from you guys. I want to let everyone know that if you have questions, go ahead and drop them into the chat. The EkkoSense team is standing by to address them and any questions in real time. Thank you, Paul, for being here with us today. Welcome.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Jaymie. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, let's do it. Let's dive right in. And let's start with audience participation. We'll get the audience involved right here from the jump with an unofficial poll. So guys, get those fingers ready. If you could just enter into the comment box the first word that comes to mind when you think about the state of the data center industry when it comes to sustainability. What is the state today of the data center industry when it comes to sustainability? We'll give you a few seconds to think about that. And in the meantime, we're also going to unveil some of the answers we received on the EkkoSense's LinkedIn Live page last week when we asked that very same question. So we received, again, interesting answers, including unfocused, confused, opaque, opportunity, which is a little bit more optimistic. So Paul, I'm going to go ahead and ask that question to you as well. And you can answer in more than one word, but what's the state of data center industry and sustainability today?
Yeah, well, lots of interesting words. I think you could go right across the spectrum there. I think challenging is how the data center industry would consider that one. I'm focused. Confused. That was an interesting one to pick up on. Confused. That's something I don't think that the data center industry should feel they need to be. I think some of these metrics are easy to get hold of and look after if you just have the right monitoring in place. So, and really, you should be looking for particular individuals and companies within the data center industry that can easily help out with those things. So I don't think you should be worried about the level of metrics. I think where data center operators are nervous, maybe that's another good word, probably nervous about what their obligations are to the regulations would be one to consider. And I think it just comes down to the level of monitoring that they have within the data centers and how they're going to actually report and what size teams that they need. And I think you see some data centers who are really well set up for it and some are not. It's all going to come down to whether they've got the right monitoring in place. I think if you go back to what data centers have been focused on probably over the last 10 to 15 years, it's only been uptime is all they've been essentially focused on in that period of time. So as long as the lights didn't go out and they didn't have any outages and they're not going to get huge penalties, that was the only thing that was important to them. And yeah, the co-location data centers would have had to care a little bit about costs in order to attract customers. But other than that, they didn't have to worry about sustainability. So suddenly having all these additional things, that is a different landscape that the data center market is now entering. So it'll be interesting to see how people cope. But I wouldn't be the ones that are willing and take that opportunity. Will be able to use the next 12 to 18 months to get themselves in a good place for this reporting, I think.
Yeah, the right monitoring and the right partnering.
Yeah.
Is the same thing happening or at least beginning to happen here in the US? Do you see anything on the horizon that data center operators, particularly here in the States, need to prepare for?
I think it's very similar. You'll definitely see it mirrored in the US. I mean, whilst we've been going for 10 years, we're comparatively new in the US market. So we've been operating in the last 2 to 3 years here, and again started to really ramp up our activities in the last 12 to 18 months, bringing new people on board with our very specific US team. And we've been doing projects over in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, working with a well-known client there on thermal risk. We did one last week for in New York for energy savings, where we save roughly about 25% energy, even with the lower costs that you have over there in the US. And I myself am out actually next week over in Virginia looking at liquid cooling, which is obviously leading into sustainability. So I think it's similar, it's mirrored, but there are slightly different drivers that you'll see in the US. Obviously, your energy prices are a lot lower, but you're still getting the same kind of directives coming through. So you've got your Securities and Exchange Commission, that directive, again, that's going through ratification. It's kind of in a similar stage to the EU there, but expect that to go through in the next 12 to 18 months. And that is going to impact on data centers reporting. I think one of the key things out of that, and maybe one of the things that's making it nervous, and it's probably controversial when it comes to the ESG directives, is the Scope 3 reporting. Mm-hmm. So for anyone who's not familiar with that, that is the actual reporting level of your supply chain, essentially, what the sustainability of your supply chain is impacting. So I know that's nervous for smaller private companies, but certainly within the data center industry, well, it's incredibly important for all the public organizations essentially to report on that, have their Scope 3 reporting. And of course, everyone hosts their data in data centers. So data centers are absolutely going to be in that first wave of having to have that accountability and that reporting. So I think 2024 is probably going to be a really important year for the US market in getting its ducks in a row, essentially, for getting that monitoring in place so they can report early in 2025.
I couldn't agree more, Paul. Excellent insight. And that makes me think of another more perhaps controversial topic, PUE, those three letters that plague us. What is EkkoSense's take on that metric?
Oh, I've got a lot of love for PUE personally. So I feel sorry for it. It's been one metric that's been standing on its own for over 15 years now. So the Green Grid brought it in, didn't they, in the mid 2000s. And it did a really good job at the time. I think people bought into it. It certainly started off well. So when PUE was first brought in, so many data centers had really terrible PUEs. With 2.5 was quite a common PUE, and that would be unheard of now. And so it had a really good impact to start with. You saw in the first 7 to 10 years of it coming in, you saw the PUEs really, really drop off. But it's not really moved much since then. And then it's got a kicking all around essentially for where it's not like for like. You can't compare apples to apples. So a PUE of one data center in one climate versus an exactly similar operating one like Texas to New Hampshire, you're going to have the same operating state but completely different PUEs, and it's unfair to judge a facility on one metric. So it's great to see finally, and it's taken far too long, but finally there's these other metrics coming in with the ISO 30134 standard that are going to help actually put all those other important things like the carbon usage, how much carbon you're putting into the environment, the cooling efficiency ratio, which for us personally as a cooling company, it's unbelievable that there's so little cooling monitoring in the data center industry even now. So great to see that one included. Yeah. And energy renewable factors. So yes, I feel sorry for PUE. It's definitely been fighting the fight on its own for too long, and I think it'll be much better where it's joined by its siblings.
And that's actually a phenomenal, nice transition here, because drum roll, please. Here we are, guys. Let's talk EkkoSoft Critical 8.0. EkkoSense just released this new solution earlier this month. We're excited to sort of unveil it here. So finally, the data center industry now has a real-time embedded ESG reporting solution. Tell us more. What makes this solution special?
Yeah, so very excited to release EkkoSoft. So EkkoSoft 8. I said we're 10 years old. So EkkoSoft itself is 8 years old, and probably still relatively unheard of in the US, but hopefully soon to change that. But what's great about EkkoSoft? It started off as a thermal compliance platform essentially. So when we first went into the data center industry, we were solving these thermal risk issues. We were solving cooling energy savings, and we used all of the information that we get from our fantastic data center optimization teams And we pile that in with all of them. We've done hundreds of energy savings and thermal risk projects now, and all the data we've got from those goes into our machine learning tool essentially, and is providing information on how to make best practice optimizations within data center facilities. So you've got that underpinning the whole software from where we started, and hopefully we can see a little bit later. You can see the kind of the cooling advisor module, which is kind of one of the most important parts of our platform. People saw that and were really excited to use it. So, and once the facilities guys, the engineers get hold of it, they love it. And we've got such a fantastic retention rate. It's brilliant. And we've expanded the capacity of the software to include power management, which is not where we expected to go, but obviously it's keen to include that. We've got capacity management now, our brilliant 3D visualizations. You can do power, space, cooling all as one. And then like you said, the latest unveiling is we've now got this enterprise view, so you really can, for your large scale clients where they've got data centers not just dotted around the country but multinationally, can actually see how their estate is performing, and compare and then use those metrics that you're getting in order to actually improve the sustainability goals essentially, and do much better. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how it goes down, how it's taken.
Well, it sounds like a game changer for data center operators. This is so exciting, and it really makes me wonder, how will EkkoSoft Critical 8.0 help data center operators meet their ESG reporting deadlines more effectively?
Well, so I mean, EkkoSoft, it's granularity of data. So we've developed a platform that seamlessly brings in live data into the platform from end to end, right from the sensors that we install, and we can integrate with a whole range of sensors. That gives the granularity of data that you need. We've got the reporting in there, so we'll start providing the reports from that 1st of January 2024 point. So I said carbon usage effectiveness will be in there. Water as well, it's a new one for us, but we'll be covering that metric, cooling efficiency, and we'll be adding the others in later throughout the year. So by the time 2024 is up, you'll be able to do all of the reporting from one place, and you won't need to have external consultants to do it. So you will actually use EkkoSoft as a part of your data center team. Essentially, it's almost like an additional member of the team, which will provide you the reports that you need and just make it much easier. And because it's doing daily aggregation and giving you that live data, that's the key bit with the metrics. You only have to report on it once a year as part of the regulations, but to get those daily feedback that you need, that is when you're going to make the changes of the operation teams and actually meet their targets, get excited about meeting the sustainability targets rather than it being a burden to report on annually.
Well, so, yeah. As this is an unveiling, let's go ahead and take a look.
Great. Well, yeah. So here it is. So as you see, this is our new enterprise dashboard view. So what you're seeing at the moment is a list of sites, and drilling down to a list of rooms. This is showing you connectivity and your alert status. And here, really important, you're getting your room metrics currently showing through from a live view. We chose to break it down really nicely into having thermal reports view, so you can see your trends over time. Really important to pick on, ASHRAE compliance in there and our own kind of EkkoScore metrics as well. Power data, you can see trends across both site and room level in their day-to-day trending, so you can actually be getting that cooling power down, which is obviously a key to helping some sustainability goals. And then here's our capacity page. So we've got utilization, space, power, cooling is all kind of presented on one nice dashboard that's at a top level. As you can see here, fits a whole host of sites, different levels of room metrics, and here is the site level metrics, where when you've actually got the reporting in place, this is where you'll see your ESG metrics clearly displayed for everyone who's got access to the platform. Here's a PUE report, an example that will be available to see. So you see it over the full reporting period, nicely broken down and normalized, which is really kind of key, so that you can actually compare sites by sites depending on what climate they're in. We've also got a carbon usage report as well, which I'll bring up for you now. Again, very similar idea. Again, all nicely normalized and split out utilities and renewables. And these are just a couple of the example reports that you'll get access to, and you'll have that across the full ESG metric spectrum as well.
I'll tell you, the word transparency comes to mind when I'm seeing this.
Yeah, that's good. And then here, just want to make sure you see the 3D visualization. So EkkoSoft at its core is real-time monitoring and easy visualization. We built it with a gaming engine in mind, essentially, that it's all about the visualizations rather than old school dashboards. So you can instantly see things like here's power usage, you saw temperature early before, and all this is real-time coming in. This is our view for AI cooling zones. So we're constantly looking at the temperatures in the racks and seeing which cooling units are supplying them. Some basic reports that allow you to see sort of thermal performance. There's a whole host of reports, obviously, within the platform, other than the new ESG ones you're seeing. And all of that data comes together for our sort of main attraction, essentially, which is the cooling advisor, which allows you to actually run cooling optimizations yourself without cooling in consultants. It gives you tile optimizations, airflow balancing optimizations, settings that you should have on your in-room air conditioning, whether that be set points, fan speeds, even whether you can have AHUs in hot or cold standby, essentially, and link that back into your BMS. So this cooling advisor, built on all the experience from our optimization team, enables you to make those savings and really get rid of your thermal risk within the hall.
It's like you guys thought of everything. You put our whole data center room by room, unbelievable transparency, click by click optimization. This is groundbreaking. This is what we did yesterday, and finally we have tomorrow today, if that makes sense.
Exactly, yeah. So we're just excited to go to help out with the data center. We absolutely live and breathe certainly cooling optimization and visibility. Visibility of data is key, and we're finally getting some of the recognition for the work that we've done. So recently winning awards in the UK for Energy Efficiency Awards, and one of the most recent ones, I think, was the National Technology Awards, winning ESG Technology of the Year. So it's great to finally see that the hard work of the team being recognised in that way. And so we only hope we can just give it to more people, more companies.
Make this global. Let's make this global. All right. So case study. What do you think? Do you have an example that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of case studies that will be good. If we bring up the thermal one, so just here's a really good example of stuff that we look at. We're called into for a global insurance company in this case, and a very typical data center there on the left-hand side where we're called in because there are hotspots in particular areas. And what that actually, so we're primarily asked to come in and sort that out. And you can see on the right, still a relatively cool data center, but essentially we can use the software to balance out the airflows, that cooling advisor that you just saw. And then you can see in the graph below the temperature drop off at average, and that allows for things like set point raising and an airflow adjustments of the fans. So as an extra benefit that customer got, they ended up with a 70k saving in the year, so 23% saving on their cooling, which wasn't even the primary reason that we were called in to kind of help out in that particular case. So that's quite common. And then if you go to the next slide, you can see that's a very typical journey. So we've actually been with this particular client for a number of years now, and we've worked with them right from benchmark. You can see the cooling power they used before we came in. And it's not just a one-stop. The way that the software works is you're continually evolving and continually optimizing with those dynamic IT load changes. And you can see that the cooling advisor chips away as it learns more and more about the room until eventually it was able to help with a complete a higher level cooling asset replacement. So you can see they're in a much better place than where they were before. That's just one of the things that the tool can do. And then I think I've got one more case study for you as well. If we have a look at that one,
let's bring it.
So that's the so thermal compliance and energy saving you just saw there. This is a particular example where you can see really hot here. So where you get issues with hotspots because of cooling failures. So they different to a BMS rather than very set alerts because of the learning that we're doing in the software specifically around how the aircon units are delivering cooling to the room. It can really pinpoint out some cooling anomalies in the data. You start to see trends. The software identifies areas of risk before they're going to happen, essentially, and it can alert in a lot of cases before the BMS does, as we've seen. So this is a particular example where the software was picking up changes that the BMS wasn't picking up, and it led to the on-site teams having to make some changes so they didn't have an ultimate outage, which is where it was trending to over time. So So there's lots of things, lots of areas that the software can kind of help with, but they're the key areas. Yeah, and here's another one, for example, of a typical hotspot. Look at that, really cold on the left-hand side, and one tiny little hotspot was making that particular client think that they had no capacity in the room for cooling and no ability to make any changes. So software installed, really quickly installed. We went to this site and installed all the sensors within a week, and we were able to do the optimization by the second week essentially, and got rid of that hotspot, and again, huge energy savings. But risk is always the number one piece, and the EkkoSoft platform is absolutely dedicated to making sure that no changes are done unless the risk is incredibly low. So there you go, just some of the examples of what EkkoSoft has been able to achieve over the years.
And this is incredible. Not only are we helping to make this planet Earth sustainable, we're also showing folks that, hey, we don't need to go ahead and run and build a new data center. We can really optimize what we have in-house, turn those hotspots into real solvable issues, because now we have the data empowering us. I love this. And then, of course, the energy savings, 70,000, 80,000. I mean, these are real dollars that are adding up and allowing us to be more sustainability minded.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't say it's because of cost anymore, you know?
No.
Thank you, Paul, for sharing your valuable insights today, and to our listeners for joining us live for this innovative discussion. Don't forget, everyone, to look for Paul and the rest of the EkkoSense team at DCD Virginia coming up soon. And also check out EkkoSense.com. You can go ahead and click on that QR code over our shoulders for more information about EkkoSoft Critical 8.0. Thank you, everyone. And as always, happy networking.